Hello, my name is Alvin, and you're listening to the very first episode of Thought You Were Woke, No Speed Limit Podcast. Yes, that's Thought You Were Woke, No Speed Limit Podcast. Today is gonna be just basically some information about me to start this out. I'm 47 years old. I'm an African American man. I live in Birmingham, Alabama. I have lived my entire life in Birmingham, Alabama. I have visited other places. I attended private school here. I also was a student at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. I grew up in a unique Christian household in which my grandparents were Southern Baptist and African Methodist. My mother and my uncle were both Catholic. So I became Catholic at the age of 12. That's after experiencing 10 years going between all those different churches. And even after I became Catholic, I did go from one church to the next. So that I had no boundaries as far as my religious beliefs go. Now, at the age of 28, I decided to become evangelical Christian and non-denominational. I have had some unique issues and with the different traditions of the church. And even now, being a non-denominational, I find some things very interesting in the church. And I guess that's because of those beliefs that I grew up with. As far as politics go, I majored in political science at UAB. I came from a household where most people voted Democrat. So now, if that's going to be a turnoff to you, well, here's your opportunity to turn it off. In recent years, I've grown in how I believe in politics and how I look at politics. It's different than when I was a child. I always grew up with the idea of responsibility. That is, individual responsibility for your actions. So that also has shaped my politics. I do believe our education system can do a better job for all of our children, not just those that they feel are succeeding, but for all of our children. And that there are those who have advantages over others that they shouldn't have. And this is the other thing. I believe in capitalism. I believe our system of capitalism is good, but it can be better. I also believe in things like Medicare for all, minimum wage hike. I believe in student loan forgiveness as well. So those are just some basic things I believe in. The abortion issue, I am pro-life, have been my entire life. But when I say pro-life, I mean I'm pro-life. I'm anti-death penalty. I am anti-abortion. I am just about anti-anything that's against life itself. So that means I'm also skeptical about gun use. I'm skeptical about gun use and how it's used. I understand that people need to defend themselves, so I don't have a problem with self-defense. People hunt. I don't have a problem with people hunting. But those purposes are purposes that are necessary in the world that we live in. So I have no problem with that. But some people want to keep their guns for other reasons that are skeptical to me. And we should be careful about who we're allowing to keep guns. Like I said, this episode is basically about things I believe in. Also, I'm a big fan of football. So we will have an open discussion about this in another episode. But I have some problems with some of the rules changes to football that have made it, I understand, safer. And I believe in safety, but also less of the sport that it used to be. So we'll talk about that as well. It's not the only sport. Basketball has made some changes. Baseball has made some changes. But the ones in baseball really haven't affected the game as much as they have in basketball and football. Kind of getting back to my religious stance in politics, because religion and politics seem to tend to meld so hard in the United States, yet we don't compare ourselves to our friends in the Middle East, where governments are literally, religious control. They're controlled by the religion. They're Islamic states. America is a Christian nation, but doesn't call itself controlled by Christianity. In other words, you can freely practice whatever religion you believe in the United States. And I believe that. Yet, we're becoming a society where people have an issue with people freely practicing the religions they want to in the United States. They're theorizing that the original founders were saying only Christians could practice their religious freedoms, maybe Jews, not Muslims, not Buddhists, not Hindus. None of these other people should practice their religion. I don't think people are that extreme, but they have issues with them. And there are also people who believe, and they have literally said this, that America is trying to impose Sharia law, that Islamic forces are trying to impose Sharia law in the United States. Now, I understand these are extreme forces, but those extreme forces did take the opportunity to storm the Capitol on January 6th of this year. And I think that's a serious issue that we have to look at when we talk about religion. So in future episodes, I promise we are going to talk about things like storming the Capitol building. We're going to talk about religion and politics, and we're going to try to divide that up into several different categories, because there's internal religion, politics within religion itself and the church itself, and then there's the external politics of secular politics and religion. So these are two totally different things, but people don't understand that sometimes. So we're going to try to divide and conquer there. And when I say football, we are going to talk about all elements of football. In fact, racial issues in the sporting industry is a problem, and we've got to talk about it because it does exist. The business of football, we have to talk about that because it does exist. So these are some things that we will talk about. I'm big on stereotypes because I've caught myself the other day having to reel from the stereotype that I kept myself. I had a friend who was Arab who reminded me of racism because of what somebody else said. And I'm going to bring that up on a future episode. I'm not going to bring that up right now, but even I have to catch myself. Not saying that I'm better than anybody else on this. And this is something that you got to understand about my religious belief. Every man on this earth, living or dead, except for one, his name is Jesus Christ, was the product of Adam and Eve's first sin. Let me say that again. Every man, woman, or dead were the products of Adam and Eve's first sin. We are all sinful people. That's what I believe as a Christian. Now, I understand I have some atheist friends who are listening to this. I have some friends who are Buddhists, who are probably Islamic, or Jewish. Now, if you're Jewish, you probably believe what I just said. You know that the original sin is something that is honest. But I do believe that Jesus Christ died to free us from that original sin. But by freeing us from that religious sin, that does not make one Christian on this earth righteous or better than any other one. It just gives us access to the kingdom of God. Now, most Christians say they believe that, but they don't act like it. I also have a unique belief that is starting to creep up in me, that whether you're Jewish, Christian, or Jewish, God has a place for you in heaven. Whether you're Jewish, Christian, or Islam, or Muslim, God has a place for you in heaven. Not saying that he doesn't for the Buddhists or the Hindus, but I have a feeling that God has a place for you in heaven. The only thing that I feel that you are missing is that light of the world in Jesus Christ if you're Jewish or Muslim. Salvation through Jesus Christ. That's what I believe that you're missing. But that does not believe that I don't believe that some of the tenements of your religion are basically true. Christians believe they're free from the law. Law is huge in the Jewish religion. Law is huge in Islamic religious texts. In fact, there's the law coded by Muhammad, and then there's Sharia law. That is huge among you folks in those religions. And I hate to use the word you folks, but folks who are Jewish and folks who are Muslim. So yes, there are a lot of subjects into which we will delve deeply into as a Christian, and how we should deal with that in this nation. And Christians should understand that door that God has opened for us, that gate to heaven, can easily be closed by the way we treat our fellow human beings. One of the most divided days in church is Sunday. It's amazing to me as a Christian how divided Sunday is. It's divided between black and white, and in some cases it's divided between people from the Middle East and people from Africa and Asia and other parts of Asia. So we have to really talk about these issues, and how can we fundamentally change those things? The in-depthness, like I said, that's something to deal with the internal politics and the external politics of the church. In this country, there's another religion I'd like to talk about that's not really a religion, but it is becoming one. It is this worship of the American flag, an idol symbol of American freedom, of American liberty. And I am not talking against the flag. I'm talking about the degree to which people are willing to go to honor the flag of the United States. They're willing to kill people for it. If that person has an issue or burns a flag, when a flag is just a symbol, you can say that's disrespectful. I can get that because I cringe when someone burns a flag too, and sometimes it's done out of disrespect, especially when it's from a foreign power or people of a foreign power. But when an American citizen decides to take a knee during a Pledge of Allegiance or something like that, I don't call it disrespect. Maybe there's a point they want to have. That is the freedom of our country. We also understand there are people in this country whose religious beliefs tells them they cannot say the Pledge of Allegiance. They cannot pledge allegiance to that flag. In fact, my religious beliefs tells me that I am not supposed to pledge allegiance to anything. It barely wants me to sign a contract. So, in our very next episode, we will talk about some of these things. We will delve deeply into those. I'm trying to keep it short today. Like I said, this is my first episode. You kind of got an introduction into who I am. But I want to thank you folks today for listening to this first episode of Thought You Were Woke, No Speed Limit podcast. There are more episodes to come, and I hope this was thought-provoking and inspiring you to start thinking about these particular subjects. And you will find that I may not be so liberal, I may not be so conservative. It just depends on how you see things. Like I said, I believe in personal responsibility, and we will be talking about that as well. The next episode, this will probably air after the Super Bowl. So the next episode after that, we will also talk about the Super Bowl and the NFL. Y'all have a good day.